This podcast is so important to me because I've been where you are. I see you. I was you. And I know that you want to give your child the very best experience in early learning that's possible. And we are going to do that together here in the Circle. Hello, my name is Leslie McKinily, and I am the Chief of the Office of Early Childhood in Chicago Public Schools. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I want to start by just telling you a little bit about myself. I've had 23 years in early childhood, particularly within Chicago Public Schools, and then I did a couple years in Virginia. What drew me to early childhood is really just because the kids are so amazing. There's so much growth that happens within the first 8 years of life. And, also the joy of becoming a mother. I have a daughter, and she is my why and why I do and who I strive to be is all because of her. And so, this journey in early childhood, it is a difficult one, and it can sometimes feel confusing because you're taking this first step. And so as a former teacher, as a current district administrator, I want to be here to help you through that. And that's what this podcast is about. And so through this journey together, coming to the Circle for Circle Time Conversations, you'll have an opportunity to learn more about my journey throughout early childhood education, my work at the district level, my work being a program leader. I work for the national, with the National Head Start program. So I just think, there's so much that I can bring to the Circle, to this community, just based on my experience. So I'm a mom going, and I went through exactly what you're going through. I can remember taking my daughter to preschool. And it's funny because I was an educator. I mean, I've, been in the field of education for years. And I said, I'm not going to be one of those moms that cry or that linger around. And so I already knew, because I know kids are fine. I know as soon as mom walks out the door, they're really getting into, the flow of the classroom and what's happening. And so I go to drop my daughter off, and I didn't even realize it actually, but I was lingering. And the teacher was like, okay, you can go. And I was like, oh. Okay, so then I walked out of the room. Now, mind you, I'm a full-fledged educator. I was going to work, actually. And so I leave out the door, and then I see myself walking around to the window and peeking in the window. And I'm like, Leslie, what are you doing? You know she's fine. But I just could not help myself. And then I went to the car, and I just had a little moment. And I was just like, but it's normal in a sense, because, you are, as a parent, your child's first teacher. And so, just realizing that this is their first step, right, into school, their first stage into formal education. It was hard for me, as I'm sure it's hard for you, but don't worry about it. We'll get through it together. But that's what this group is about. We're going to push through. We're going to ask questions. We're going to solve some mysteries and, dissolve some myths as we go through this work. So again, I just invite you to come along, stay connected, subscribe, so that we can build this village together. Just like it takes a village to raise a child, navigating preschool takes a village. And we're going to do that right here in the Circle. Yeah, so there are a couple things that parents worry or have questions about when they're thinking about putting their youngest learners into preschool. One is this the right school? Right. I know when I was making that choice for my daughter, I had to talk to friends and families. I visited schools. I did research on what makes a good school, even though I was in, education, just, when it's your child, you really want to make sure that you're making the right choice, right? And so one thing that I would recommend to families, and what I tell actually my own family members, um, think about your experience, right? And some of us have had some good experiences with school. Some of us have had some not so good experiences with school. But in either, there's a learning opportunity, right? And so take that with you when you go into schools. And I always recommend going into a school or even an early childhood center or community-based organization because it can tell you a lot. And trust your instincts when you walk in there. You should feel the value of children. You should see evidence of student work and children learning and growing. And you should hear laughter and joy and noise and, just curiosity. And so I would say, one of the things is folks are often worried about is, am I making the right choice? Is this the right place? And you won't know that unless you go and visit. And so again, here in the circle, this is the stuff we're going to talk about. And we're going to talk about it from the perspective of a district leader, from the perspective of a mom, from the perspective of someone who cares about young children and who is an advocate for young children. And so one thing I do want you to know that here in the circle, your voice matters. This is not just about me coming and sharing with you from my experience. Yes, that's part of it because I do have a lot of information and knowledge to share. But really, the true value of the circle is you and bringing your voice into this space, asking questions that are concerning to you and your family. And we as a village want to make sure that you get those answers to those questions here in the circle. As I go back in my journey and think about what was missing when I was enrolling my daughter into preschool, one thing I would say is time. I took the time to do the research. I took the time to identify the right school, not only for her, but for our family. But at the same time, I was a single mother. So I was, working, rushing to get her. And so I didn't have a lot of time to really spend in the classroom. And so if I could go back, she's in high school now, but if I could go back, I think one of the things that I would do a lot differently is spend more time in the room, volunteering, being a help to her and the teachers, because those are critical years and the children grow up so fast. And so, here in the circle, that's where we're going to have these real, candid, honest, conversations. And we're going to help each other get through because I know there's still some single mothers out there that are doing it. And I know that if I can help them figure out at least how to get a little more time to make themselves more visible in their child's educational journey during these early years, that will make my heart sing. And we're going to do that here in the circle. Yeah. So when I think about what's missing, from me when I was doing this 10 years ago when my daughter was a preschooler, one of the things is access, right? Right now, you have an actual podcast that you can tap into. There's a community of moms that can help you and share their experiences and their knowledge. And 15 plus years ago, we didn't have that, so I was navigating this space alone. I didn't have experiences of others outside of my families and friends. And one of the things that was unique about my situation is I had my daughter later in life. And so, she didn't have cousins who were, around the same age, nearly going through this process. And so as a single mom, I was navigating it solo. But you don't have to do that because you have us as a village, as a community. We are here for you, and we will be here in the circle to help conversate, answer questions, dispel any myths or rumors. But we're here and we'll figure it out together in the circle. So with that being said, make sure you share this podcast. Make sure you share this with your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors, your families, because just like you and I, they're going through these same things. They have similar questions. They're trying to figure it out. They're single moms. They need support. And so we want to be that support here in the circle. This podcast is so important to me because I've been where you are. I see you. I was you. And I know that you want to give your child the very best experience in early learning that's possible. And we are going to do that together here in the circle. One thing that I know, being the chief officer of early childhood for Chicago Public Schools, is there is information out there. Some of it is accurate. Some of it is myths. Some of it is clearly not true. But we're going to get to the heart of truth here in the circle by playing a childhood game, red light, green light. And we're going to answer your questions that you're getting from your aunties, your cousins, your friends, your neighbors. And we're going to dispel myths here at the circle. So join us. All right, you ready? So we're going to be talking about myths in every episode. So you'll see this red light, green light, yellow light game played in every episode, and you'll have an opportunity to get your questions answered, and it's also an opportunity for us to dispel any myths or untruths that might be out there. So are you ready? Let's go. So we talked to about 700 parents, and there's some things that we want to get to right now. Let's go. So the first question that comes up for us to demystify is, should I receive notification of placement 24 hours or the next day after I apply? And that's not red, nor is it green. However, it's a yellow. And you could receive notification the next day. It depends. So let me tell you a little bit of information. So we have an initial application period. And during that initial application period, we are only accepting applications. So all families need to do is apply. So if you apply at the beginning of that initial application period, or any time during that initial application period, you will not receive a placement the next day. You have to wait until offers are made available to families. And generally, it's probably about 3 weeks. Now, if you apply during the second phase of our application, which is generally in May, then you should receive an offer within 24 hours in your portal. So that's why it's not, that one wasn't a myth or an untruth. It was just, we needed more clarification. All right. As a matter of fact, we are actually in the initial application period right now. So if you, your cousin, your mama, your auntie have not applied, your daddy, grandpa has not applied, go ahead and do it now. So we will be accepting applications until the end of April. Another question we always receive, once we launch our pre-K application is this the same time that I need to apply for my child who may be a kindergartner? And that is a no, that is a false, So no, we have 2 different application timelines. So the pre-K application window is generally in the spring of the year. Generally, we launch in March. Our application opens, and then it remains open for the remainder of the year. Offers are given at probably in May. Our kindergarten application typically launches in the fall, right? And families have from October-ish to December to apply for kindergarten or any other grade from kindergarten through 12th grade. So that application is open during that time. So I love that game. That is one of my favorite games, but it was also informative. So make sure that you get your questions in to us so we can dispel some myths when we play our red light, green light, yellow light game each segment. A lot of questions I get is, why is pre-K important and why does it matter? Well, what we've seen and what I've experienced with my own daughter is that it matters a great deal. Sometimes it's so easy to go into rooms and you'll see children who've had previous pre-K experience or not. You see children who are engaged, who are socially aware, who are able to manage their feelings, their emotions. They're able to play beside someone. We also see those ones who are taking an interest in math and reading. And those are all important skills that help prepare students to be ready for kindergarten. And so when I'm asked, why is pre-K important? It's simple. It sets the stage. It gives children an opportunity. It really gives them a head start into learning. So one thing we know is the decision to enroll changes everything, not only for the child, but for the family too. So every good teacher gives homework, and I am ready to introduce your take-home folder. And since this is the first episode, I'm going to make it real easy on you. So I told you I'm going to make it easy on you. So there are a couple things that I need you to do. The first thing is share your stories. We need to hear from you. Your information might be the one thing that someone needs to hear to help them navigate this early childhood experience. Also, I want you to do the number one thing we all have come here for, and that is to enroll. Take the first step to not only change your child's life, but to change and impact your family. The last thing I need you to do is share this podcast with a family, friend, colleague, neighbor, cousin, auntie who may need it. And also join us here in the circle. See you next time.